his youngest brother. And toward the end, we shared some emails. Me being in California, I had asked him what it was that got him started into drumming, and he had a few stories to tell, and I wanted to read one of those to you right now. So bear with me. I can't see as well as I used to. Paul, you asked how I got into playing drums, and here's my story. I had no innate ability to play drums. It took me a long time to develop the skills necessary. I was really lucky because every band I got to play with was always a little over my head, which forced me to practice that much harder. Also, I've always found that you rise to the level of the people you surround yourself with, and that's true both in life and music. I have a couple very distinct memories of how my musical interests developed. When the Beatles came out, I wanted to play guitar, and Mom, in her usual conservative fashion, took me to the King Corn stamp place and got a cheesy ukulele with a plastic fretboard. Told me if I stuck with that, they'd look into a guitar. I worked at it and learned a few songs, but we never got on, the uke and me. So I remember being at a Cub Scout Webelos camporee at Fedgeberry Park. They had a rock band come and play for us, and I was really inspired. I believe their name was the Travelers Four. I remember especially being enthralled by the drummer and kind of realizing, hey, I could do that. So back at home, I got a Reader's Digest condensed book off the shelf and the cues from our carom board and tried messing around with that like a drum set. Jim actually gave me my first drum lesson and showed me the two basic rock beats at the time. Thanks, Jim. You were very instrumental in getting me started. Then I took a bus downtown one weekend and went into Cook's Music, long gone now, and bought my first pair of drumsticks. Somewhere along the line, I also bought my first two records, The Ventures Pipeline and Jan and Dean Live from the TAMI show. I then expanded my drum kit to 3 Reader's Digest condensed books and 2 blocks of wood for cymbals, and started playing along with the records every day. Mom finally realized I really was serious about this, and we arranged for me to take drum lessons with Gaten Caviola. Larry Shootman was taking lessons from him. So we got back-to-back lessons, and I would ride with Larry every week. Gaten was a very serious big band type drummer who ultimately moved to Las Vegas to play shows out there. To be honest, I wasn't ready to absorb what he was teaching me, and we just spent most of the time playing along with records. After taking lessons for some time, Mom and Dad finally broke down and bought my first drum set, something they no doubt regretted right away. Originally, I kept it in the bedroom and immediately started getting complaints from the neighbors. In August of '68, I went to see the Night People, the Soft Machine, and Jimi Hendrix at the Call Ballroom. This was Jimmy's first tour after being booted off the Monkees tour as an opening act. This was the beginning of a recognition that there was so much more to music than playing pop songs. So I got to where I could carry a beat and started playing with some of my school friends that were picking up guitar, and eventually got good enough to get with a band that actually played a gig or two, and it just went on from there. In college, I hooked up with Will Parsons in the music department, I believe that was Ambrose College, and started taking lessons again. Also started playing with some serious musicians, and that's where my real skills finally came to fruition. I had a friend that was in one of Will's classes with me, and we got on well, and his name was Steve Fairs, and who ultimately became the lead I think the biggest thing that happened to me along the way was discovering that music was more important than drugs or alcohol. Not that I didn't try some of that too. When I joined the band Dixie Flyer, they were so far beyond me, I didn't dare get high and try to play. As I developed the skill necessary to keep up with them, I also found that music itself would get me higher than any alcohol or drugs could ever hope to do. I realized that my interest in music was more spiritual than pop star oriented. When I packed everything I owned and went to LA, God intervened to remind me of this. I didn't know it was him at the time, but know clearly now that it was. I went to hear a good friend, Bobby Sexton, that I played with in Iowa City, who had been in LA for several years. He is an extraordinarily talented keyboard player, guitar player, and singer. He was doing a lounge act in a local restaurant, making good money as he strived for pop stardom. A few nights later, I distinctly remember sitting in my room at a Motel 6 in Anaheim and thinking things over. I thought I was having a conversation with myself, but now know it was God speaking to me. I realized that if I was going to stay in LA, I would need to devote 110% of my life for at least 10 years. God asked me if I did that, and at the end, was still doing lounge gigs, would I be satisfied? It took a few milliseconds for me to realize it just wasn't right. Pop stardom really wasn't why I played music. In fact, I probably would have become a total druggie alcoholic had I devoted myself to pop music. So I realized I played music for the joy it brought into my life alone. That's why I turned around and came straight home. Never looked back, never regretted my choice, and spent the rest of my time devoted to playing music I enjoyed with good friends I enjoyed playing with. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'd like to add there was some subsequent emails, and in one of those he did mention that the most important music he played was the music he played here with ministry and at Grace Baptist Church. And I thought that was very touching. So we'll miss you, Dennis. I know God's got a good drummer right now.